nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish. I'm hoping 25 hours a day, but something good works out, and I'm just like, dang. Think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm like, dang. Think you might just know the way. I'm like, dang.
All right, welcome to Dang.
Dang.
Dang. Dang, it's hot outside,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
It's very hot. And we are joined today by Lisa Moore. She's a mother of 2 daughters and is a native to Arizona, which is where Todd and I are now. And she is well-known personal stylist, makeup artist, motivational speaker, mental health advocate, and philanthropist. Her passion is to help others feel and look their best. Lisa is very involved in many charities and nonprofits, including Make-A-Wish, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, UMOM. I'm not familiar.
UMOM.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a shelter here in Arizona for women and children.
Awesome. Okay, Arizona Foundation for Women, Phoenix Children's Hospital, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and many more. And in 2023, she was awarded the Visionary of the Year Award from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So we are so excited that you're joining us today.
Yeah, you're involved in a lot of stuff, huh?
I sure am. Thank you for having me.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about how did you get into all of this amazing charity work that you're doing?
Charity work is something that I always wanted to get into at a young age. I remember watching TV and seeing celebrities granting wishes for Make-A-Wish, right? And I thought, what a great way to help someone when they've had the worst news given to them, especially for children and what their parents must be going through. And then I became a mom, and I can't even imagine going through what these parents go through. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I would volunteer at Phoenix Children's Hospital in the cancer unit and watch girls put wigs on that were donated, and it broke my heart. We'd do their makeup, paint their nails. Some were too sick to come out of their room, so I'd just go talk to them, and their wishes were to hope to go home, to get to go to prom, homecoming, all these things that a lot of us take for granted every single day.
Oh, yeah. I think the older we get, the more things we take for granted.
Absolutely.
And kids, I look at children and, you want them to be healthy because they have a whole life ahead of them,
Yeah.
And they have so many things they can do in their life, and you definitely want them to be healthy. That has to be very challenging and very tough for parents to watch that with their kid going through that.
They don't know if they'll ever get to drive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't get to know if they'll ever even get to go to school and be around kids. So I went to an event, and the founder of Make-A-Wish, Linda, was there, and she spoke. And I went up to her right after, and I was like, you were so inspiring. I didn't know it started here in Arizona. And I just told her I would love to be involved in any way I can, gave her my card, and I granted a wish very quickly after.
That's awesome. I didn't know it started here in Arizona either.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. And the story is amazing about that young boy, and his wish was to be a police officer.
Oh, wow.
And they made it happen.
That's
and
cool.
he passed quickly after. And a year after his passing is when Make-A-Wish started granting wishes.
Wow.
And it's very inspiring. It's very hard because you're in a room with a child, and not all are going to pass, but a lot of them are critically ill. And a lot of them are terminally ill, so it just depends on what's going on with them. But I've been blessed to grant many wishes, and I've stayed in touch with all the families that I have. And one in particular, I go to them with the Make-A-Wish Gala every year. And her name's Audrey. Her wish was to be a supermodel for the day.
Oh, nice.
So and it was after COVID, and she was actually supposed to go to New York and go to Vogue headquarters, and everything got canceled. So I helped Make-A-Wish plan her wish. She got 3 hair looks, 3 makeup looks, 3 outfit looks, a big photo shoot at Camelback Inn. Scott Faust, one of the top photographers here in Arizona, shot it. And it was a day I'll never forget. And she felt like a real life supermodel.
So that must be the greatest gift for you, must be watching the excitement on their face and watching you, granting them that wish that could, send them with smiles.
It's a memory they'll never forget. Their families will never forget. And I got to be a part of that, right?
Yeah. That's an awesome wish, too, with those photos are going to be so priceless.
You'll have to look on my Instagram someday. Like Anna Wintour signed a pair of Chanel sunglasses.
Wow.
Her custom Chanel sunglasses that she wears, and gave them to her.
Nice.
Along with a Vogue magazine, and just wished her well. And it's amazing what people do for these kids.
Oh, yeah.
And to know you're a part of that, even in a small way. I mean, I've given makeovers as wishes. I'm not Disneyland, so after COVID, I granted quite a few because they had to stay locally.
Yeah.
So it was, it's an honor and a privilege, and it just kind of spiraled over the last 7 years. I just got invited to so many events and charities, and then finding out that they were started because of a kid with leukemia.
Yeah.
Make-A-Wish was started because of the little boy with leukemia. There's so many charities because of kids with cancer that have been founded now, and I attend their events. And then I got nominated for the Visionary of the Year, which is one of the top philanthropy fundraisers worldwide. And to get nominated, you have to be someone who's philanthropic, someone who gives back, someone who really cares about their community and helping others in ways I never thought I would ever be asked to do, or ways I never thought it was possible for me to do. And I wanted to challenge, give me a challenge, I take it.
Right? How difficult was it to raise money?
It is very hard.
Yeah.
I would not ask you for $1 if I was starving.
Yeah.
And I have starved before. And, but when it came to helping friends who were diagnosed with blood cancer and all these kids who are being sick with cancer, I mean, I couldn't say no. And the crazy thing is they nominated me and I said yes. But then I was like, who am I? I'm nobody to do this. I was scared to let them down. I do have a lot of connections, and they know that. I know a lot of Arizona's population, so I could see why they wanted me, but I just didn't want to let them down and disappoint.
And you would think that the cities would be more behind this, right?
Yeah. There's so many charities. Arizona is such a big philanthropic state. Like, I did not realize how many charities there were until the last 7 years when I really started getting invited to all these events. And I was like, okay, now I've been invited. I've met the founder. I've met the people who are important, and now they want me to be involved. So weirdly enough, I was at my store that I work at, and the phone rang, and I normally don't answer the phone often. And it was a woman on the phone saying, hey, can you send me the pictures of the prettiest perfume bottles you have in your store? Which is a weird ask.
Yeah, it is.
And I said, sure, give me your cell phone. I'll text you some when I'm done with my appointments. And I sent her pictures of pretty Chanel perfume bottles and Parfums de Marly, because I'm in, a very high-end luxury store. And later she texted me thanking me and said she was making a book for her daughter. She ended up calling me, and I said, this is amazing. She goes, my daughter loves perfume. She just got diagnosed with leukemia, and we don't know if she's going to make it. And she's in the hospital. And that was the day that I got nominated, and I wasn't sure I should say yes. And at that minute, I knew that was a sign. That you're saying yes, you're doing this, you're going to put your whole heart into it, because I won't commit to something unless I can give 100% of my time. And I'm a very busy person, and thankfully good at multitasking, but at the same time, I won't take something on that I don't feel that I can give it my whole heart. And with that, in that moment, I gave it my whole heart, and I ended up raising over $200,000 in 10 weeks and won the title. And I just chaired their gala this June. So it's the first time co-chairing an event, and I'm co-chairing it again next year. And I've helped them raise over $500,000.
Wow. Tell us your toughest time situation when it came to raising money. How'd you get through it?
It's hard. Rejection.
Rejections. Rejections.
But I've had a lot of rejection in my life, and I'm in my 40s. I'll be 47
When you get
now,
rejected, how does that feel for you?
I try not to take it personal.
Okay.
I think as we get older, you don't take things as personal.
Yeah.
It was hard when it's someone that I have supported, or when someone made a promise and it didn't come true. But at the same time, I get it. It's life. Things happen. Things come up. I'm a big believer in just communicating. So it's when someone goes silent or doesn't communicate, then you feel a little like, but it's okay. You know, if they wanted to, they will. If they can't, they won't. And I understand that, and I respect it. And, I was very careful about how I asked and who I asked, and they knew the why behind it and how important it was for me. It wasn't about winning the award.
No. Yeah.
For me, it was to help save lives, and so other people don't have to go through this. Blood cancer is number one cancer in children. I also won their patient support award because during the campaign, just in those 10 weeks alone, I had several friends diagnosed with a blood cancer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had several friends who've had blood cancer. Most of them have survived, thank God, but some had not. And I just wanted to do my part and say it's something that I did, and for my daughters to witness it and see how hard work pays off. And it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to, put yourself out there and out of your comfort zone, for sure. It was definitely out of my comfort zone, but I'm very proud of myself.
It's an amazing accomplishment. It was so sometimes for me, and I think I've seen it with other people, we get into doing this service and this kind of charitable work because it's, when we're struggling personally, sometimes looking outside of ourselves is a great way to kind of just move past and help us move through things. Do you feel, is that been reality for you? Kind of what?
Everything I do now is because of things I went through before.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a really rough go as a child. I grew up in a very abusive home, very physically, verbally, emotionally. Pretty much every family member is an addict. None have recovered, but one brother. I have a brother in prison who will be there for life. I've lost a brother to overdose. I don't have a good family structure, and I never really did growing up. I didn't have anybody that I could look up to. I didn't have anybody say, you got this, you'll get through this, you're going to be okay, I love you, I'm here for you. I didn't have that growing up. And so at a young age, I just knew I wanted to be a good person and a good mom, and I wanted to have kids. And I remember loving my mom, but I struggled because of how she was, but it was because of her addictions. And at a young age, you don't understand why they choose to do the things that they do. So it was very hard growing up, but all the things that I do now help. It's my therapy by going through it, right?
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of that, too, for myself. Same thing. I had the same similar situation. My father was an alcoholic and very abusive to my mom and me. And my mom was there for me a lot of the times. Well, not all the times, and she was always been there for me. The toughest part for me, though, was, I told myself that I would never be the father my dad was. And I became a great father just because of that. I always went the extra mile. My kids always, my dad never told us he loved us, but I tell my kids constantly, I love you. I'm always saying that to them because I want them to know that I love them.
And I'm sure you show them more than you tell them, right?
Yeah, but they need to hear it too. They need to hear it. And you show them showing and telling, showing and tell, called show and tell.
Yes.
You can show and tell, it works out very well,
It's very true. And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you have to, for me, my daughters every day know how much I love them and how important they are to me. I tell them all the time they actually saved my life because they gave me a purpose in life to want to do better, to do more and be better than where I was at their age. My oldest turned 23 on Saturday.
Nice.
Wow.
And I was 23 when I had her, which is absolutely bonkers to me. I look at her and I'm like, one, I can't imagine her married. Because I got married when I was 18. And I can't imagine her having a child. So I'm so grateful that she has the life a 23-year-old should have.
Yeah. How was that for you to get through? Like you talk about your family growing up. How did you get through that without, falling into addiction yourself, do you think?
Honestly, sometimes I just don't know. Like it was in front of me all the time. My mom would give me drugs and alcohol at a young age, and I was taken away from her many times. And it was hard because I loved her and I didn't want to be away from her, and I didn't want to be in some strange home with people that I didn't know. I never felt like I had a safe space or stability growing up. And my mom... it was hard because I never wanted to talk about any of this stuff when she was alive because I didn't want to shame her. I didn't want to hurt her more than she was already hurting. I knew there was reason she was hurting that I didn't even know.
Right.
And later, after she passed, I read a lot of her journals and stuff that we found. And I found out so much about her life that I didn't know. And I just wish we had those conversations. I wish she would have shared some of those things with me because then I would have had some more understanding on why she treated me the way she did. But before she passed, she knew I loved her. She knew I forgave her. She knew I was okay. I'm a big believer that everything that happens in our life is for a reason, right? I have no regrets. I don't want to live my life like, woe is me, feel sorry for me. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. I want to live my life more purposefully and be like, okay, I didn't have this, but I can have it now. Yeah. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to make amends with someone. I don't know how I didn't go the other way. That's one of my things I talk to young kids about when I go to junior highs and high schools is like, you have the power to say yes or no.
Yes. Yeah.
Good or bad. And I thank God every day that I chose good. I didn't want to do drugs. I still never have touched a drug to this day. I didn't have my first alcoholic beverage until I was 30.
Well, one of the reasons why people who have addiction problems, they have a hard time dealing with their emotions or telling people how they feel.
They numb it with
Yeah,
the
they
others.
numb it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much so. Like for me, everything that I went through, I just tried to numb it. What I didn't know was our parents back then didn't tell us, they told you don't do something until you said, why not? Because I said don't do it. There was no real explanation, no
Right.
telling us really, what not to do.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Her saying how
Oh, yeah.
you didn't know why your mom was doing what she until you like read in her journals later.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something different that's happening now that's
Yes.
maybe good to where we talk more about things. Like I know that like Todd was saying with my kids, like I try not to just say no. Like I try to explain why, and I don't think there's something about that other generation that maybe a couple generations, I don't know.
I feel like it was more shameful back
but
then.
yes.
To
there
admit
was-
that,
yes.
like everybody put on this happy face. Everybody
Yeah.
wanted to be Leave It to Beavers.
Well, you wanted
the mask, the little you're hiding.
You wanted
Yeah.
everyone to believe that your family was perfect. And
Right.
you didn't talk about it because it would shame your family. So everything had to look great on the outside, even though you were falling apart on the inside. And that's how it was for me. I was doing this successful show. Everything's wonderful, seems wonderful, and meanwhile, I'm falling apart at home. My life is in turmoil. My mother is protecting us from my father, but my mother only can do so much. One of the things that drives me crazy is they don't say how important the father is. Father is very important to a family dynamic, and that's actually the interesting part about us is that we got married 2 years ago, and being a stepdad is a different kind of situation. But at the same time, they need to see a guy who is strong, can handle himself, but also at the same time is loving and gentle. And, sometimes you have to tell yourself that, I got to be more gentle, And it's a tough thing to do because you're so used to hiding your emotions. The era I grew up in, you hid everything. You blocked it.
You be a man.
Oh,
You don't
yeah.
cry.
Oh, yeah. My
no
dad said
signs
all
of
the time.
weakness.
Yeah. And I told my son, no, you can cry, but, it has to be a reason why you're crying. Don't cry because you're not getting your way. But you can cry because you're sad or you're hurt by something, and that's okay.
It's okay to feel your emotions
Yes,
and
yes.
to express your emotions. And I think now mental health is like at the forefront of
Yes,
everything, especially with
yes.
social media. We didn't grow up with social media.
No,
thank God, right?
exactly. Oh my gosh,
And it's insane the stories that these young kids tell me of their experiences.
Oh, yeah.
We had our experiences. I mean, I was bullied growing up. I'm still
Yeah.
bullied as a grown woman. It's never ending. And I just tell them as you get older, you stop caring less what people think about you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the key to
You just want to be
success.
healthy. You
Yeah.
want to be alive. You want to live the best years you have left and focus on what's important and what's in front of you and living more in the moment versus
yeah.
worrying about the future. Growing up, I was always worried about my future. I was like, what is my life going to look like? I didn't think I was going to live past 16. I met my ex-husband when I was 15. We started dating. His family took me in when I was 16. I got emancipated and became a legal adult. And we got married when we were 18 and then had our kids. So I thank God every day that he was in my life and his family, especially his mom, because they took me in when I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And my grandmother moved me to Arizona away from my mom the last time I was taken away from her when I was, I think, in 3rd grade. And so I thank God that there were people who did take care of me when they did. And I feel like I was saying earlier, there's no regrets. I don't regret getting divorced from him because he's the father of my children. And they love their dad and he's a good person. I never would talk any ill will about him, especially, on anything. And, and every person that's been in my life, whether it be a friendship, relationship, it's all meant to be. My fiance is a great guy and he's the first guy I've ever dated or been with that wasn't an addict, because then I attracted that after my divorce because that's what I was used to. And my self-esteem was so low. I had no self-worth and self-love for a long time. And I think just getting older is what I talk to these young kids about and my daughters is it comes. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, you don't know who you are until you're in your 30s and 40s, really.
How do you explain that to your daughter? Like how to, I know my daughter is, she's 19, my oldest daughter, and she just had her first
my youngest
breakup.
daughter's 19. Oh,
yeah.
God. Yeah.
So
I just went through that too.
I know. And it's hard. It's so hard. You wish you could download, right? Like you could take it out of your brain and download it into their brain. I so wish I could do that because
they don't want to believe us.
My
daughter.
No, they act like we haven't gone through anything.
We don't know anything. I know.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
Oh, yeah. It's like,
You don't know what I'm going through. And we're like,
Exactly.
oh, do I? And more.
Yeah.
My daughters, I've always been very open with them. I've had to be. You know, I was a single mom for a long time after my divorce. They were 1 and 4 when their dad and I separated. And my focus after that was to just be the best mom and human being I could possibly be. I had to start all over with everything. I had no money. I didn't have I had a career, but not something, you know, that people.
What were you doing back then?
I was a makeup artist back then too, and doing some event planning. And I just felt like my mom relied on men after men after men, and they were all abusive to get through life. She never had a job.
Yeah.
She not one job. She never learned how to drive. She had no education. There is a lot about her life that just makes me really sad, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living a life like that. So I feel like a big part of why I'm so independent in the way that I am is because stability is so important, and being self-sufficient and not needing someone to take care of me.
Right.
But then at the same time, you do need someone. So it's a hard balance sometimes. So with my daughters, I'm like, you know, just be the best person you can be. Life is about making mistakes.
Yes.
Right.
And it's okay to make them. Just don't make the really bad ones, please. And
Yeah, well, at least like look around, right? At the evidence around you.
And you are who you
learn.
surround yourself with. Like if you
Right.
surround yourself with a bully or a girl who, you know, isn't the nicest person or date the wrong guy, you know, your life isn't going to be what you want it to be.
Yeah,
And
I always tell people, don't put yourself in a situation that's going to be tough. You know, it's like if somebody steals, okay, it doesn't mean you don't have to be their friend, but you don't go to the store with them.
No.
You don't invite them to your house. You can be courtesy when you're outside with them. Hey, you know, but don't let them anywhere near where they
They're
can
not in
actually.
your circle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't put them in your circle.
You believe what people tell you when they
Yes.
tell you who they are. Because like that's something I discuss a lot with one of my friends. Where it's
Yeah.
like people will tell you who they are
Yeah,
in
they
the way
will.
they act or what they're doing, and you got to believe what they're telling you. I think sometimes we will like
we put blinders on.
or we make excuses for that.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's the old thing about the frog and the scorpion, right? The frog asks for a ride over to the thing. And she goes, "You're gonna sting me?" No. I won't sting you. He goes, "You sure?" Yeah. Okay. So he gets a ride over there. Frog's him a ride, and all of a sudden, before he gets, he stings him, and they both die. He goes, "What happened?" He goes, "I'm a scorpion."
Yeah.
You know?
I told you what I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good.
Yeah.
Another thing I like to tell my kids too is I'm like, I had a brother that was really good at this of like learning from other people's mistakes.
Yes.
Like I just, I don't know, maybe it's the stubbornness in me or maybe it's because I was towards the older, like there were 7 kids in my family and I was one of the older ones. So maybe I just didn't have that many examples that I was looking at, but I was like, you don't have to make the same mistake
Right.
that somebody
yeah, I
else
know.
makes. Like you can learn from other people's mistakes.
It's like if I'm walking, someone says, "Don't go down there. There's a monster over there." I'm not gonna say I don't believe them. I'm gonna take another road around the other way. Because you know something, I don't have to believe you, but I'm just gonna have a small part of me saying, you know something, I'd rather not risk it and take this thing. I've learned that taking the easy road is a lot better than taking the hard road. And taking the hard road is doing what you want to do, not what should be done. I've learned that.
And trusting your gut,
Yes,
your instincts, I
yes.
think is so crucial. I just had this conversation with my oldest daughter actually last night at dinner. She just went through a breakup, and you know, it's hard seeing someone that you love going through something that you can't help them get through, except for advice and you know, that's what I was just telling her is, you know, she's gonna be okay and she'll get through it, and she deserves better, and knowing her worth and how proud I am of her for ending it. Yeah. And for sticking up for herself and not settling and putting up with behaviors that she doesn't deserve. Yeah. We're all human and make mistakes, and none of us are perfect. My daughter, you know, I tell her I'm not perfect.
Yes. That's what people need to know.
I'm not perfect. I know what I do for a living. Yep. And when people follow me on social, they think my life is very perfect and glamorous. And because I'm a nice person and I'm outgoing and I'm very positive, people assume that my life must have been amazing.
Well, it's
and
nice.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, it's what you can put in that little, like that's my background too, as like a designer and stylist, but not of like people, but of like objects and things. Yeah. Like I can make that little frame, that little like square frame on an Instagram picture. I can make it look pretty damn close to perfect, right? Like I can get close.
Yes.
But if you go like and take a couple steps back, it's chaos, like everything outside of the frame. And I think that it's really a reality check that sometimes we have to make that with ourselves and with others of like this, hey, sometimes you're just seeing that front, like we're all battling.
Yeah, and social media is the worst with it because everybody portrays their best selves, their best lives. I know like when people follow me, they see all the events and all the charity stuff and all, all the good stuff. I don't post me crying, or the sad things, because I try to be very positive. So when
people don't read all the bad things people say about you either all the time,
No.
And that's very hurtful. And that's what I was trying to teach one of our daughters is that, where you're headed for, do not read what they say about you because it will crush you if you're not ready for it. And even if you are ready for it, it still gets to you somewhere inside. So like now I don't read any stuff. People say, I'm not going to read that. Why didn't you read it? Because I don't want to hear what people say about me. I don't care. I have to know how I feel about myself and I'm okay with who I am today. And I'm happy with myself. And that's how I stay sober. That's how I stay sober is because of that reason.
I made that mistake after the wedding.
Yeah.
I went through and
I told her don't do it.
There was some pictures of us like in People of our wedding.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not going to be that bad. And I started scrolling through some of the comments and that was a big mistake.
People are brutal.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
It's horrible. I remember.
Keyboard warriors is what they are.
It's sad that someone can sit behind a computer and say such hurtful.
Oh yeah.
I went through it. My youngest daughter went through it really bad starting in 6th grade. And I actually had to pull her out of her high school freshman year because the bullying was so severe. It caused her major anxiety and depression. And she graduated high school from home, which was very hard as a mom because I wanted her to have that experience like her older sister did. And she just didn't. And she's doing amazing now. She's going to the gym. She's working out. She's finding her purpose in life, and she's feeling more confident and putting herself out there, reconnecting with friends. She has a great boyfriend, but the transition of that was so hard. I was calling her constantly from work because I knew she was home alone.
Yeah,
and I got her a dog. I was trying to do everything I could as a mom to be there for her, but no matter how beautiful I told her she was, how amazing, these people sitting behind the keyboard saying things, or their friends are at a slumber party or at the mall and you weren't invited, and it's like, why? Or you're not pretty enough, you're too skinny, you're too fair, you're too this, you're too that. And I got publicly criticized 7 years ago. My mom went missing here in Arizona, and she technically still is. And one day the detectives called me and I was at work and I was getting ready to host a huge event in my store. And I happened to just be wearing red lipstick because it was fall, and I had a black dress on and heels, but nothing showing by any means. But I got this call saying, hey, we need you to do an interview with Fox 10. It's really important to your mom's investigation. And she had been missing since April, and this was in October.
Okay, so for months.
So months. And so my heart, I'm like, oh my God, they found something. And of course, I'm going to just go outside and do this interview. I'm standing outside the corner of my job. Usually cameras don't zoom out and show your whole figure. So I thought it was just going to be her and I talking face frame. Didn't look at myself before I went outside. Did the interview. I was crying. People were walking by recording on their phones, being super insensitive about it. And I just was so shocked and appalled because I went back in my store. I looked in the mirror and I was just like, oh my God, I forgot I have red lipstick on. People are going to think I got dressed up to go on this show to talking about my mother missing. I just knew it because I've been judged before based on how I look. And it's because my job is very superficial. I'm a makeup artist and stylist, so I make people look their best, and I have to look my best.
Of course.
So people want to shop with me and get their makeup. You know what? So it was a double-edged sword. So I clean up my face. I go upstairs. I host this event, take pictures, schmooze with everybody, act like nothing's wrong. Inside, I'm dying to know what they found and if it's going to help me find my mother. And I get in my car, and I had thousands and thousands of messages from people. I even had friends who aren't friends, actually, acquaintances who screenshot comments and sent them to me.
Oh, yeah.
And it was screenshots of women calling me a slut, a whore, a liar, saying I looked expensive. And then I had all these weird men sending me videos, pictures, disgusting things, saying disgusting and inappropriate things about me, about my mother. And then, they copy, and it's not live, so they edit clips.
Yeah.
So there was one point where her and I were just having a conversation about, I don't remember what, but we're smiling at each other. But and in the background, they're talking about her missing. And then they called her elderly. Yeah. My mom was only 60. So then people were coming at me for saying she was elderly, which I never said. Yeah. And so it was just, and it went on for a while. And I finally was just like, I can't do any more interviews. Because people were just judging me on what I did and how I said it and how I looked, and I didn't do enough, and why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you trying this? And telling me what to do and how to do it, assuming I wasn't doing those things, and never understanding, like, if you're in that position, how hard it is.
Yeah, how frustrating.
I was. and I didn't want to go on camera and talk about this.
Yeah.
I didn't want everybody to know such a deep personal part of my life, and no one knew much about my family history before then. So then it was like, well, then I had to really start opening up about why my mom was in a home for recovering addicts.
Right.
And
Yeah.
why she was the way she was. And then I've helped so many people by sharing that story too. Yep. So it's hard to talk about, to be vulnerable in that way, because I really was worried that people would judge me. They would think she's broken, she's damaged, I can't trust her. You know, is who she says she is? But then most people, and the people that I care about, know, like, they see me more than my aesthetics and what my job is. They see me as a human, as a survivor, as someone who cares about others more than myself a lot.
Yeah.
And
That's definitely my wife.
yeah, and so it's, I'm an empath, which I feel like you are as well, just from our conversations before we even start taping. And life for me now is just about helping others get through whatever it is they're going through. And if I can help one person not want to kill themselves, one person not let a bully bring them down, one person who might have gone through something that I've gone through, because there's been a lot of different things, that they feel like they're not alone and that they'll get through it too. Because I just didn't know.
Oh yeah. What I've learned for me to help me move past things, get forward, is boundaries with people. That's what
I'm
I've
still
learned.
working on that.
I know.
I know
Me too.
yeah.
Actually,
It's hard.
It is a hard one.
Yeah, but I've learned to set my boundaries, and once I set my boundaries, that's it. I'm going to stick to my boundaries because I have to protect me.
Yeah.
And if I don't protect me, everyone else is in trouble too. You know
So
what I mean?
what boundary have you set that you found to be successful?
I'm going to be who I am, and I'm okay with that. I don't have to have money. I don't have to do this and that. I'm okay with sitting by myself and sitting with myself. I was never comfortable with sitting with myself.
So not like changing who you are.
No,
for other
it's just
people.
being okay
Like,
with
I'm
who
not
I
gonna
am.
change
Like
who I
looking,
am.
like looking in the mirror and saying, "Okay, I'm happy with who Todd is today." And I don't care what anybody else says. If they're not happy with it, sorry, that's on you. Because I know who I am. I know I'm a good person. If you don't like me, then that's on you. You must have an issue, not me anymore. Instead of me taking on, I used to take on people's. I still have trouble sometimes taking on what my wife is feeling, and I have to, I have trouble with that because we're as one. But I'm learning.
You're married now.
Yeah. And believe me, married wasn't my idea; it was God's idea. For me, I trust God wholeheartedly. I've heard him. I've talked to him. I've seen. He saved me from a lot of things in my life. Like my mom's going through some stuff right now, which is hard for me to deal with because. My mom was my savior. Yeah. She saved me from everything. She got me to where I am today. And to see this woman right here take care of my mom the way she does is extraordinary. Yeah. But I want her to set boundaries with people because they tend to, because she's so nice and so giving, they're going to take and not really give back.
Well, I have to say something about you saying how your mom is your savior, because I think that's a really, like, we come from a really spiritual background. Both Todd and I are very faith-based. And I think that can sometimes actually be a problem because I think one of the things I've been working on is realizing that I'm not their savior. Like, I'm their mentor. I'm their friend. I'm their coach. That's what I'll say to my kids. I'm like, I'm your coach. Like, I'm a human too. Like, this whole, like,
coach and cheerleader.
This life here that we're involved in, like, it's meant to be challenging for me. It's meant to be challenging for you. It's literally designed, like, that's what I believe is like a test where we're kind of proving ourselves a little bit and that we're all at this together. I just happen to have a little bit longer in this, phase. Like, I've been here for, 40 years and you've just been here for 19, right? So I've got a little bit of an edge on you. So maybe I can coach and mentor you. But, like, ultimately, I believe that Jesus Christ is my savior, and he's their savior too.
Well,
right? And I don't mean to attack you. I'm just saying
I may
that
have said it the wrong way. But what I mean by that is that my mom was there for me every single time, that I needed somebody there for me. God, of course, put her there.
Absolutely.
God, because she was a praying, strong woman, she would always pray in the ways, and then she knew exactly how to deal with me. Like, she knew how to cut me off. When she said, "You call me from jail anymore, don't expect me to help you." And that was God showing her how to do that. And believe me, by doing that, saved my life.
I know, honestly. And I don't mean that as an attack on you. I just mean as a way for us moms, probably particularly, to be able to kind of take a step back and realize at some point that, like, hey, they're here to have challenges
Yes.
too. Like they have to meet obstacles and overcome them just like I had to and just like everyone else has to.
And we're not going to be here forever.
Right.
I want them to know that
Yeah.
they're okay and strong enough to get through
Well, that-
whatever
yeah.
it is.
And
When
show
they
them
find
where
that.
they can really, the source
Yeah.
they can really look to
Yep.
for like that infallible
Oh, yeah.
help that they need. Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be me, right? Like that
Yeah.
ultimately, like I wish I could be that, but it's not
No,
really
I,
what's.
I think a
yeah.
parent's job is when they fall down, you let them see where they're going to go first, and you say, okay, now here's a different route you should have took. You know, you don't. You
have to let them fall
Yeah, you don't
sometimes.
throw
Yeah.
money in their hands or just throw something in their hands. Like, hey, here, you tear your car up. Here's a new car. No, you let them see that there's a struggle in life, and they have to start being responsible for themselves. The consequences of their actions.
Also
yes.
the reframing though. Remember like the toddlers? Have you had that with where they would like fall down and then they look at you before they
Oh,
cry?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're trying to
Reaction.
decide like what the reaction's
Yeah.
supposed to be. And
Yeah.
my parents, they would always be like, "Yay, you're
Oh, yeah.
okay." Like to teach that reframing of like, "I'm
Yeah.
okay." Like
Yeah.
I fell down, but I'm okay. I'm just gonna get back up.
We fall down many times in our lives,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we have to get back up and keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah, it's a very important lesson.
Well,
I
Lisa,
agree.
I think your story is an excellent example of like falling down and getting back. Like it just sounds like
Yeah.
you had a lot of things stacked against you that you had to climb over, and I am so impressed.
Thank you.
That you've
Appreciate
gotten
that.
yourself here and that, like doing what you're doing is
And
amazing.
I'm sure it's still a daily struggle, like it is with all of us.
It is.
But
It's-
it's a struggle that gets a little bit easier every day for me. That's what it is for me. I don't know about you, but for me, the struggle gets a little bit better every day.
or it just changes.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
I'd
think-
say it gets easier.
I don't.
It
Yeah,
just
I think
Well,
it's
no,
just
it gets-
time.
right?
Time makes things.
the pattern, right?
I
pattern,
think
yeah.
no, I think that for me, certain things get easier because I was so caught up in blocking my emotions, not dealing with my emotions. That's why as good as well. When I tell you I'm feeling something, I won't let you change it because I blocked my feelings so long that I know what I'm feeling. And I refuse to let anyone, like I did before, everyone could change how I was feeling. I was the kind of, okay, that's no problem. Okay, so I've learned that today it's about me and not, now listen, now you have to hear this carefully. I know the leader of my life is Christ and is God. That's how I am for me. But I know that God will instruct me to do certain things and I can't let anyone change my mind when it's happening because people will try to change your minds. It's just like, I don't know if you recently saw that poor lady who had the hot water in her hand, got shot in the face by a police officer. After she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ," he shot her and killed her.
Oh wow.
So
It's a crazy
So the
story,
crazy
yeah.
part about that is like, God is there for us. He's our protector. He's our savior. Because I wouldn't be this far without him. There's no way, But I truly believe that my mom, God used her because she was the only one that could actually get to me and talk to me and convince me to do things that she needed me to do. Because I fought her tooth and nail. The last recovery that I went to, I fought her tooth and nail. But look where I'm at today because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I think that's my goal at this point too, is just to be able to be those hands to get to people. I think that's what you're doing, Lisa. Like
Yeah.
being there to be able to get to the people that need,
Well,
Yeah.
that's why going to junior highs and high schools is so
Yeah.
important to me because
yeah.
these kids are so impressionable and they're so vulnerable and they feel like they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
I actually have gone to my high school twice. I just went again in May for the second time, and in my dance room, which was my safe space, I would, when I was still living with I moved back in with my mom. I didn't say earlier when I was 15 to try to have a relationship with her, and it was really toxic, and she was not in a good headspace, and I wanted to have a relationship with her so bad. I was 15. I needed a mom. I needed some type of role model in my life and someone I could cry to, talk to, ask for advice about dating, all of that stuff. And it just was not good. So I would purposely stay the night at my high school because I had to take 3 city buses to go to
Oh,
it.
wow, okay.
And we have money.
So you would stay in
sometimes
the dance
I
studio.
would stay in my dance room, and my teacher knew it. It was a secret. I would stay after school to choreograph routines for our recitals, and then I would just stay, and she'd have food.
Because it was a safe space.
It was a safe space.
Yeah.
I had no one
Amazing.
screaming. I had no yelling. I
Yeah.
didn't have to worry about calling 911 on my mom
Yeah.
because of a reason. There was a lot. And so I was at my school, and they had me put my handprint on the wall of the room that I used to sleep in.
Oh my gosh.
And I talked to hundreds of girls and boys about my life. And when I share that with them, you can tell who resonates with it because they just start crying. Some girls walked out of the room.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them message me after and on Instagram because I tell them to follow me if they need my help. And I've helped some of them with shelters. I've helped some of them how to communicate with their mom about they've been sexually abused, or they might be pregnant, or their boyfriend's beating them. I mean, I've so many things that I've been able to help them with, and a lot of them were things that I went through at
Yeah, I
an
was
age
gonna
younger.
say, have you ever
me,
came across someone that reminds you of what you went through?
A lot, because I went through so much. I was abused. You know, I was sexually assaulted when I was 9 because my mom wanted to go party with friends for the weekend, and she left me with a strange man. And I remember the thing I remember the most, not just what happened, obviously, but being so scared.
Oh, yeah.
And I never wanted to talk about it. The first time I opened up to someone about it, he said, you let him do that to you?
Oh my gosh, like made it your fault.
Yeah, like it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I was just, and I always felt like at a young age, you think it's your fault. Like, what did I do for them to think that was okay?
Yeah.
You know, or why didn't my mom love me enough to?
Oh, yeah.
Why wasn't I good enough? Why could I never be enough? And my mom would probably been happier with me if I were an addict. We would have had a much closer relationship, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, and because I refused to be like her, we butt heads so bad, and that's why it was so bad. So I just, you know, going to my high school, like I'm a big believer in like full circle moments. I stood in that room, I looked at it. It looked so much smaller than it did before. I looked in the mirror that I used to look in, and where I hated my body, I hated my life, I hated everything. I hated people in general because I had no one really good in my life. And then to be there now as someone who has overcome all those things, who can openly speak about it and be vulnerable and share that with people who are going through it to help them get through it is pretty powerful. And I'm really trying to encourage them to do the same, to like stick up for themselves and not let others project their insecurities onto them. Because when you were talking about setting boundaries, that's one thing that I'm learning to do, is to not let other people's insecurities make me feel bad about my life or what I've been through, or judging.
Who you are as a person.
Who I am
definitely.
as a person. You know, you're a makeup artist, you must be stuck up, conceited, full of yourself. You think you're so this or that. And you're a stylist. Oh my God. Like, you work here, you're high maintenance, you're expensive. I've had all those things said. And I felt like I always had to go out of my way to really show people who I am as a person and how nice I am, so that they won't judge me.
Yeah.
And now the boundary is like, I don't care. You like me.
I'm like not going to carry that
great.
burden.
If you don't like me, great. If you want to follow me, awesome. If you don't, cool. Block and delete are my favorite things on social media right now. I'm like, I just had a thing sent yesterday, actually, and it was very negative, and I was like, block, delete. Like, I delete negative comments. I don't believe in fueling the fire to get more comments and attention. I don't really pay attention to those things. Honestly, I don't care how many followers I have. And I do tell my daughters and all those kids that I speak to, like, you're going to go so much farther in life by being a kind person.
Yes.
By having manners, having respect for others, not just for
but
others.
But it doesn't always mean you're going to get it back from people. That's the thing.
Right.
It doesn't, but it doesn't even matter, right?
It doesn't.
Because
well, when you get older,
people are expecting to get it back, but it doesn't.
You can't expect people to be who you are, and to be, and they can't expect you to be who they are, and believe in the same things in the world we live in right now, especially with all the politics and all this stuff. Like, I just stay away from those conversations because people have a hard time understanding each other, wanting even to listen to each other.
And it was never like that before.
No, it's we live in a very hard, sad world, and for me, I try to just bring some light and joy and inspiration where I can. And be positive. It's not fake. It's who I am, and it's how I'm getting through all the negative things I've been through, because there's been a lot. Yeah. And in one of the last podcasts I did with my dear friend Carrie Pena, I said the only other way I could go from being positive is negative, and I don't want to be negative. I don't want to live a negative life. I don't want to be a negative person. I don't want to focus on, I didn't have this, like I said earlier, and I didn't have that, and this happened to me, and why? Because I spent so many years doing that, and then I ended up in wrong situations.
Here with that one. So did I.
And now I'm in a good place in my life. My daughters are 19 and 23. I'm in a relationship with someone who would never hurt me. And it's the first time I ever felt safe and stability in my life in the last 10 years. I have you know, my own home. I've worked really hard to provide a safe home and space for my daughters, and they're so proud of me. Like, they're my biggest cheerleaders now. They think
I love that too.
my oldest calls me Visionary of the Year every day. And I was like,
awesome.
I just gave the title away. She's like, no.
You know,
Like, we're very close, and I'm grateful for that.
one thing I always tell people is to never, I tell parents to always, you know, that I remember a pastor said one thing to me. He said, cheat your job. Cheat your job, not your family. Cheat your job, because you're not gonna get that back.
Yeah.
You know, the kids really watch what you do for them, and watch. Yeah. They need that. They need their love and your care from the parents. They just need that.
They do. We all need it.
Yeah.
You know, and if we didn't have it, it doesn't mean we can't give it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like you were saying earlier, you're an amazing father. You have a beautiful wife and a great life now, and you're so grateful, and you've overcome a lot. And I said earlier, you should be so proud, because not everybody can get through that, what you've been through. And for me, it's inspiring, and I love being inspired by people. I love hearing people's stories. We all have them, and whether my situation be harder or worse or theirs, like, we all have a story.
Yes.
We've all been. No one's life is perfect,
Exactly.
even though they portray. And the ones who portray that their lives are perfect are the ones that are usually
And that's
least
what
perfect.
Yeah, you gotta
I always
watch
say
out for
that.
them.
I always say
Yeah.
that. Don't think with the outside. It's what you don't know what's going on at home.
Right.
Well, you know, I remember when my oldest daughter was in elementary school, there was a young girl who was bullying her. And it was pretty bad, like physically hitting her. And the principal at the time was like, you know, that young girl's going through some stuff at home. I'll bring her mom in and have her talk to you. And I was like, okay. Well, the next day I was driving my daughters to school, and I had to park behind the school and walk them across the field, right? And there was this mom screaming at her daughter, trying to pull her out of the car. And I look at her, and my heart felt so bad for her. Because here my daughters are all like excited to go to school, backpacks on, smiles on their faces, even though, you know, and this poor woman is like struggling to get her kid out of the car, screaming at her, and slams the door and is like, fine, the principal can get you out, and drives off. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Well, it turned out that young girl was the girl who was bullying my daughter.
Wow. Okay.
And I asked for the mom's name, and they're like, her name's Lisa. I was like, okay. So I purposely made a point to meet her mom at the park one morning and just have a conversation with her. And it turned out her daughter was going through a lot at home. Parents just got divorced, so she was acting out and treating my daughter the way she was because of her own pain. So we set up a play date. They became friends. And that was a valuable lesson for me as a mother, and for her as a child, is like, you never know what someone's going through at home.
That's
and
right.
we act out because of what we're going through. I in third and fourth grade, I remember the principal saying, Lisa, you need to stop beating up the boys, because every boy who came near me, I punched them or kicked them. Like bloody lips. And I'd kick them because they teased me for my Asian eyes, you know, I was really tiny. And so any boy, and I had issues with men because I watched my mom get abused by so many, physically, emotionally abused. And so I just didn't like men in general. And so I remember the principal, like, you have to stop hitting the boys or you're going to get in trouble. And so I had those anger issues as a young kid. And I'm so grateful that I don't have that issue anymore. But, you know, it's just, there's always a story, there's always a reason, and there's always a lesson. And I think it's really important to do things like this and be vulnerable and share experiences so that other people can listen and watch and be like, hey, I know how you feel, or I didn't think about that, or I should do this too. I try to inspire people to give back now. And I have so many friends who are like, how can I get involved with Make-A-Wish? How can I donate? How can I attend or do this? And that's the point, right?
Yeah, I think I love what you just said too, because it's so true that I think when things happen, often we'll be like, why did they do that to me? Or why do they, and we think it's about
blame
us,
ourselves.
but it's, well, not even just necessarily blaming. We'll be like, why? Well, like, where it's almost always about them, right? Like, it's something with them. And we can just assume like they're hurting. Like, that's what I try to say. If somebody's rude to me at the store, or, you know, somebody's flipping me off in traffic, or just something happens that's rude and I just think they just must be having a real bad day. I feel sorry for them. Maybe say a little prayer for them. And I think that's perspective, because I love what you said too about, you know, if I'm not going to be positive, then my only other option is to be negative, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's a really those are
one or the
some
other.
good parting words, right?
It's
Yeah, there
very
is no
black
in the
and white.
there's no in the middle of that. Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
gray in being nice, and I wouldn't be who I am, where I am in my life if I didn't
Choose the positive.
Yes.
the positive, and I won't stop doing that, and I will continue to say that, preach it, and live it.
That's inspiring. Lisa, thank you so much for
welcome.
joining us.
Of course, thank you for
Appreciate
having
you
me.
being here with us on Dang.
Yes,
Dang.
on dang. Well, dang. Yep, you were here.
Dang, girl. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much, Lisa.
you.
Really appreciate it. This podcast is produced by my wife, Betty Jo Bridges, in collaboration with Pop Populi, and edited by our daughter, Adelie Ann.
She is also the musician responsible for our theme music, so go check out Adelie Ann wherever you stream your music. Have a question or topic you want us to cover? Send us your suggestions at dangpodcast.com.
If you would do me a quick favor, please subscribe or rate our podcast to make it easier for others to find. Have a great week.
I